So we've suffered through some chemistry fundamentals, and now we're ready to apply that understanding to a very important environmental science concept, which is the importance of water, or H2O. Water is an extremely important molecule for life on Earth. Water is the basis for all living organisms, from plants to animals to bacteria. So it's found inside of our cells. It's found outside of our cells. The weight of the average human body is about 60 to 70% water. And it's also found all over the surface of the planet. The majority of the Earth's surface is covered by water. Obviously, water plays a very prevalent role in life and the environment, but why is it so important? Water actually has many special qualities that are brought about by the fact that it is a covalently bonded polar molecule. Okay, so let's remind ourselves of what that means. Water, or H2O, is made of two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom, and the hydrogen atoms each share, not transfer, their electrons with the oxygen atom. So that makes these bonds covalent, not ionic. And on top of that, the oxygen atom is more electron greedy than the hydrogen atoms, so it draws those electrons towards itself. And you end up with a polar molecule here. The hydrogen ends are each slightly positive with fewer electrons, and the oxygen is slightly negative because it has more electrons, or it holds onto them uh, at a higher occurrence or rate than the hydrogen does. Polar nature of the molecules and the fact that it has these negative and positive poles gives water many of the qualities that allow it to support life. That's because when you're looking at a body of water or water inside of your cells or inside an organism, you're not talking about just one water molecule, but many, many water molecules together. When you have a collection of water molecules like this, positive end of one molecule is attracted to the negative end of another molecule. So these yellow dotted lines here represent this network of attractions between separate water molecules. And you can imagine how the water molecule wants to stick to each other and remain as a cohesive unit. This all arises from the fact that they are polar molecules. Because, of course, if they were nonpolar molecules, then those attractions would not exist because the molecules wouldn't have those positive and negative ends. This network of attractions between molecules gives water special properties that make it uniquely able to support life. One of those properties is that water molecules have cohesion and adhesion. Cohesion describes the fact that water molecules stick to each other, and adhesion is the fact that water will stick to other non water molecules too, so long as those other non water molecules are also polar. Cohesion is probably something you've observed before if you've ever done that little experiment where you drop water on the surface of a penny and watch this big dome form. And you're expecting it to burst and flow off the penny, but it just keeps getting taller. The reason why water is able to support this shape without collapsing off the penny is because of cohesion. The water molecules stick to each other. If you do this with another liquid, like ethanol, for example, or as we commonly call it, alcohol, you cannot achieve this dome shape because the cohesion just isn't there. In nature, these cohesive and adhesive forces allow water to be transported. For example, water is pulled through plant roots and distributed throughout the plant because of its cohesion and adhesion. In this demonstration here, we see a paper towel being bent and dipped into a cup of colored water on the right and an empty cup on the left. And water gets drawn up into the material of the paper towel, and then the force of gravity pulls it into the cup. The reason why the water is pulled into the paper towel is because the adhesion of the water molecules to this paper towel and cohesion pulls other water molecules along behind it. This is exactly how water moves through plants as well as through other living organisms. And without cohesion and adhesion, this transport of water would not occur. Another important property that arises from the polar nature of water molecule is water's ability to maintain a stable temperature. Water has this remarkable ability to keep a stable temperature even when it's absorbing a lot of heat. A thought experiment that I like to pose as a demonstration of this point is to ask you, imagine that it's a hot summer day in southern Arizona, 115 degrees outside. You've got your car parked out front and you've got a swimming pool in the backyard. Which would you rather do? Go lay on the hood of the car in a swimsuit or jump into the swimming pool in a swimsuit? Obviously, we all choose the pool because the metal hood of the car is blazing hot, but the water in the pool will be a nice, pleasant temperature. That's not just be, that's not because one is getting more heat than the other. The weather conditions aren't any different between the front of the and the backyard. It's because of the substance that they are each made out of, and that substance's ability to stabilize temperature. The temperature of a substance is, on a physical level, related to the motion of its molecules. The faster and more erratically those molecules are moving, the higher the temperature of the substance is. When it comes to water, those attractions that we pointed out between individual water molecules keep the motion of the molecules calm and steady. They can't move erratically as easily because they're stuck together in this network of attraction, so the temperature remains stable, unlike the temperature of the metal in the hood of the car. This brings us to the third and final property of water that derives from its polar nature, and this is that ionic molecules and polar molecules are able to easily dissolve in water. That's because if we can turn to this picture, those attractions between water molecules can be substituted for attractions to other molecules with full or partial charges to them. For example, sodium chloride, NaCl, into a sample of water. It fits right in because the sodium ion has a positive charge and is attracted to the negatively charged ends of the water molecule. The chloride atom has a negative charge and is attracted to the positively charged ends of the water molecule. It fits right into this network of attractions. Now, sodium chloride is an ionic molecule, but as I said, covalent molecules can do this too as long as they are polar, like water is. So, water can dissolve polar molecules and ionic molecules. And this is essential for living organisms because, as you know, living things are made primarily of water. And many of the important biological molecules that support our functions, like, for example, salts and sugars, need to be able to dissolve in water so that they can be transported throughout an organism, be involved in chemical reactions, or other activities. What you see in this animation is a spoonful of salt, NaCl, being dropped into a sample of water. And you can see as it quickly dissolves into that network of attractions with the water molecules. If substances were not able to dissolve in water like this, it would just sink to the bottom or float to the top. And it's necessary to function as a living organism. Without doing so, it would be impossible. For the final section of this page, we are going to switch to tackle a different but nonetheless very important chemistry topic, and that is acids and bases. You may already know that acids and bases are substances on opposite ends of the pH scale. But what does the pH scale actually tell us? Well, the pH scale measures the concentration of hydrogen ions in a particular substance, whether something is an acid or a base, and how acidic or basic it is on the scale is dictated by the concentration of hydrogen ions that can be found in that substance. But when we say hydrogen ion, what do we actually mean? Well, remember that an ion is an atom that has an electrical charge, resulting from having gained or lost an electron. In the case of the element hydrogen, hydrogen is the smallest and simplest element in existence. You see it has an atomic number of 1. So that means the hydrogen atom has one proton in its nucleus and one electron in its orbital. An atom of hydrogen becomes an ion when it loses that electron and gives it away to another atom. When this happens, all that is left behind is the proton in the nucleus. This free floating proton is the hydrogen ion. So now that we know what the pH scale measures, getting back to the scale itself, the scale runs from 0 to 14. Right in the very middle of the scale is the number 7, which is the value assigned to pure water. Pure water is considered neutral. It's neither acidic nor basic. As you go lower and lower on the scale of pH values, the concentration of hydrogen ions actually increases and things get more acidic. Conversely, as you go higher and higher on the scale, the concentration of hydrogen ions decreases in solution and the substance becomes more basic. So anything below 7 is an acid, and the lower the number, the more hydrogen ions, the stronger the acid. We can see something like battery acid is very strong around pH of 0. If we go a little higher, we have stomach acid at 1, lemons, soda, tomatoes, coffee, and milk is just slightly acidic. Anything above 7 is basic. And as you get higher in pH value, there are fewer hydrogen ions and the base becomes stronger. Some mildly basic substances seen in nature are human blood, egg whites, and farther up the scale are really strong bases like bleach and drain cleaner. pH is an important component of living organisms' homeostasis, or their ability to maintain stable internal conditions. If the environmental pH is too far out of the range of where an organism can function, then that can threaten the organism's life. Later on in this course, we will talk about how changes in environmental pH are threatening ecosystems.